Mm. And let me get the recording started. Fantastic. And I am just going to start off with
Good evening to all of you. This is Abdul.
Hi, Abdul. Nice to meet you. Glad you're here.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, so now let me just share my screen and let's get okay. So first and foremost, I just want to start off by acknowledging where it is that we are living and working and playing on this very beautiful day. It's a great day to be in front of a computer screen, I know. But we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Coquitlam, Katzie, Coquitlam, and Kitkite nations. I know that we've got people here, I think, from maybe across Canada. So also to acknowledge all of the other nations where you are as well. I wanted to start off because there are so many of you that are joining us that I don't know if you're aware of our program or if you're aware of the services that are out there for you, for mostly for permanent resident clients, but within wherever you are, whatever province you're in, whatever city you're in, specifically, I'll be talking about British Columbia and the Lower Mainland, but there is the Career Pass program. And I encourage you all to check out these supports. There are great supports out there for newcomers coming into Canada that will help you with your resume, help you with your interviewing skills, help you network, help you find mentors, and connect you with events like what we're having tonight. So please, if you're in BC and you need more information, you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm happy to provide those services. If you're outside of the province, unfortunately, I won't be able to help you there. But today I'm going to speak specifically about Career Pass. So the Career Pass program is for skilled newcomers, but that skilled newcomers can be used loosely, but because we are all here with lawyers this evening, obviously you are all quite well educated to get to where you are today. But I'll tell you a bit about the support that we provide in this program. So if you sign up for something like Career Pass, and for those of you on the call, if you wanted to work with ISS of BC, you have to live in Vancouver, Burnaby, or New West, which is why that was one of the questions when you signed up. But what we will do is provide you with support. So that would be action planning to help you with your career goals. If you need language-specific training, we will help you with that as well. We help you with the evaluation and assessment of your foreign credentials, and then the job support side, whether that is helping you with your resume, interview, as I said, potentially if there is some upgrading that you need to do, or obviously as lawyers, there is some, courses that you need to take. There are lots of different steps that you need to pay for, and we can support you with a little bit of this. We also offer networking and mentoring opportunities for you, like this evening, for instance, but also trying to work to find you an individual mentor. And then we can work to help you find employer connections. So whether that is providing you with ideas, or if we are actually connected, like for instance with Legal Aid BC, we do have a connection with them, so we would be able to support you with your application, and that leads to the workplace opportunities as possible. As I'm sure you all know on this call, the road to being a lawyer in Canada is a long one. And oftentimes in the time that you would have in our program, we might not fully be able to support you there, but we will guide you as best as we can. Some of the requirements for our program, obviously you have to want to be a lawyer again. You need to be underemployed or unemployed, a permanent resident within the last years, the last 10 years, I should say, have an advanced English level, so a minimum of a benchmark of 5, have a minimum of 1 year pre-arrival experience in your profession. And we are also not only accepting permanent residents, but people who are, say, at a refugee status, but are just in that final process, that final stage. We will be able to support you. If you are interested, there will be the information at the end, but I will also email out to this. I will email this out to all of you who have said that you are in our area, so that you know how to get in touch with us. For those of you who are also on the call, we do have another program called Global Talent Loans. So Global Talent Loans is a bit different than Career Pass, and they provide you with a little bit, not necessarily funding, but a low-cost loan. So again, I do understand that the path to becoming a lawyer again in Canada can be expensive. And they do offer low-cost loans available from $1,000 to $30,000. And they offer a lot of the same services that we do in Career Path. So that would be the networking, the mentoring, the resume help, the interview skills, all of these kinds of things. You need to be an immigrant, a Canadian citizen, or a protected person in BC, and have obtained your post-secondary education outside of Canada. So this could be relevant to a lot of you. Again, if this is something that you're interested in, I will email this out so that everybody on the call has it. And with that being said, I am going to get started this evening with our participants. So let me just stop sharing. Oh, I think I have stopped sharing. Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience and me going through that presentation. And I'd like to introduce our speakers this evening. So we've got Jerome, Anisha, and Duni. I'm going to give them all a moment to introduce themselves. Anisha, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. A very brief introduction about myself. I'm the founding partner of a prominent law firm back in India. The firm that I established has more than 500 clients we cater to across the globe. I have completed my post-graduation from Culinary University of London with distinction, and I've successfully completed the NCA program that is required to become a foreign-trained lawyer in Canada. I have also given my barrister and solicitor exams, and I'm awaiting the results of the same. Very excited to be a part of this panel discussion because there was a lot of problems that I faced while I was undergoing the process, and I'm very happy to be a part of this panel and share some insight as to what are the problems that you might face while you're undergoing this process and how to easily navigate through it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anisha. Duni, would you like to tell us a bit about you? Oh, perfect.
Hey, thanks, Liz. So my name is Duni. I'm an internationally trained lawyer from Nigeria. So I got my LLB in Nigeria, and then I moved to Canada to do my master's at UBC. I've done my NCA exams. I completed them in 2019, and I done my articling and was just recently called to the bar in British Columbia here in Canada. I'm very excited to be part of this gathering today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Jerome.
Okay, guys. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jerome. And just like Duni, I'm licensed to practice law in Nigeria. And I've been practicing law in Nigeria since 2016, majorly as an in-house counsel. So I moved to Canada in 2022, and I started the process, the NCA process. I have now completed the NCA process, and I will be starting my articling program in October. So yeah, I'm still in the process. I haven't completed it yet. So it's good to get to speak to you guys and share some of my experiences.
That's great. Thank you all for telling us a bit about yourselves. Duni, before you joined the call, I said to Anisha and Jerome that June seems to be an auspicious month for all three of you, as you've all kind of reached another milestone in your journey of becoming lawyers. So Duni, you got called to the bar this month, which is excellent. I think that means that your journey is almost over. Anisha, you're at the final stages, having completed your exams, and then Jerome having landed this articling position. These are all really important steps towards getting to that final goal of practicing law in Canada. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
I think that we lost Duni for a second. So, I'm going to just start off with one of the first questions, and then we can kind of go from there. Anisha, one of the things you said was talking about the problems that you faced coming or trying to start as a lawyer. So I do definitely want to touch on that. But asking all of you individually, and I know this is a bit of a loaded question, but what were some of the detailed steps that you needed to do individually to kind of start working as a lawyer here in Canada? I don't know who wants to take that big question on first. It's not an easy
Anisha, do you want to go first?
You go ahead, Jerome. I'll continue after that.
Okay, I think one of the first things that you have to do as a foreign trained lawyer, and at the end of the day, Dunya would have to say something because she's the only one who has been called to the bar here. So we're just going to start and then give the floor to you. So one of the first things that you have to do as a foreign trained lawyer or someone who has a Bachelor of Law degree from somewhere else that is not Canada is to have your certificate, you have your qualification assessed by the NCA. The NCA is National Committee on Accreditation. It's I would say it's a general body that assesses everyone's qualification, no matter where you're coming from. So they would assess those qualifications and they would determine how many courses, how many exams you get to write. Some people get as much as 9, some people get, I don't know, I think the lowest that you can get is 6. I got 6. That's because I come from Nigeria. Nigeria is considered a common law jurisdiction, similar to Canada. So some of the things that we did in Nigeria are quite similar to some of the things that we are going to do here. So recently, they've added legal research and writing. So it's not an exam per se, but it's something that you have to complete. So once you're done with your exam, you have to register with an organization called CPLED. CPLED offers you that opportunity to complete your legal research and writing. It's equally as important as the exams, right? So it's not something that you're going to treat with levity and consider it as, okay, I'm done with the hard part. This is going to be the easy part. This is also something very, very important. So once you're done, you get your assessment, you are going to decide how you want to complete the exam. NCA doesn't necessarily care. They're going to give you 5 years from when you get your assessment to complete these exams. Now, this is the process when I did mine, and I just did mine last year. So I don't know whether they give 10 years now or they give 12 years. So if anything changes, please stand corrected. So they're going to give you 5 years from when you get your assessment to complete your exams. You can either go to a university in Canada and apply for an LLM program in common law. If you take the program, it's very expensive, it's very costly, but some people are able to pay for it. So if you complete the 1-year program, it will be considered that you've settled the NCA part. But if you decide to go to the route that I've gone through, which is taking the exams one after the other, paying for the exam, registering for the exam, that is also an option. And I think it's way cheaper than the LLM route, because the exams right now, I think is, I don't know, 400 and something or 500 and something. It's still very expensive, but when you compare them, this is a very much cheaper option. Now, for British Columbia, once you are done with your NCA, you're going to get a certificate. You get that certificate, and the next step for you would be the articling program. You're going to get an articling position. If you get an articling position, then you start the articling position. I would say it's a 1-year program. It's also possibly a 9-month program, because you have this 2-month program in between called the PLTC. So at the end of the day, you're going to take an exam. When you take that exam and you pass and you complete your articling, Ray, congratulations, you are going to be a lawyer in British Columbia, right? So there are different processes for different provinces, but we are here because of British Columbia. So I'm going to speak on British Columbia. So I'll give the floor to Duni or Anisha to add something.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerome. Do either of you want to add to what Jerome had to say?
That was a really detailed step, detailed explanation about becoming a lawyer here. Thank you so much. So yes, you get your certificate of qualification from the National Committee on Accreditation, which is part of the Federation of Law Societies here in Canada. Then you find an articling position, which by far is the most challenging step that most people encounter, including myself. So I did my NCA in 2019. At the time, I did 5 exams. So I think 5 is the minimum. I'm not sure if it's 6 now, but I did 5 exams. And I self-studied for the exams. Even though I did my master's here at UBC, it wasn't the Masters of Common Law that I did. I did a specialized master's. So I self-studied for my NCA exams. It wasn't very easy, but it's doable. And then I also, after my NCA exams, I tried to find jobs. I was looking for an articling position, but I was also looking for jobs that were as close to the legal field as possible, right? So that I could get experience and just get access into the legal field here in BC. It's not very easy to break into coming from a whole different country, right? It's not very easy, but getting to know as many people as possible through work, which is that was kind of what I was trying to do. So I worked as a legal advocate, basically providing advocacy services to members of the downtown East Side community, which was very good experience. It was wonderful. I met a lot of people. I enjoyed the work, and it was a good step towards eventually finding articles. So yeah, the next step is to find an articling position. It's 9 months, but then like Jerome mentioned, you have the PLTC program, which is a 10-week course that you have to attend, and then you take the barrister and the solicitor's exams afterwards. Yeah, so those are the steps to becoming a lawyer. Thank you.
And-
Anisha, do you want to?
Yeah, because
I
Anisha,
mean,
I think you had a different path, right?
Yeah, so I think I'm just going to add, they have mostly covered all of it, but just somebody who's going to start off with the NCA exams or who's not yet applied, they would, get a lot of information if they go to the NCA website, which is the National Committee of Accreditation. There, they have all the options available, which tell you if you're eligible. So they're mostly divided into 2 categories. It's either somebody who's going to move to Canada or who's obtained their degree from a foreign college, or somebody who was a Canadian citizen and has obtained their degree from a foreign country. All of them who've not studied law are eligible to give the NCA exams. Now, in order to be eligible and to be able to apply for it, you will need to create an account. In that account, they would ask for basic details such as your transcripts. They would want the college to send the transcripts directly to the federation, and they would also ask the bar council of your country or of your state, however the association is, to send a letter of good standing. That also has to go directly to the organization, because it is important that they get the certificate of good standing. Only then you will be eligible to sit down for the exams. Once they assess the transcripts and the certificate of good standing, they will tell you the mandatory 6 exams that are here now. One of them is Foundations of Canadian Law. The second one is the Constitution Law. Third one is the Administration Law. Then is the Criminal Law. Then is professional responsibility, and 6th one has recently been added, which is the legal research and writing. And only once you clear all these exams will you get a certificate of completion. However, depending upon your transcripts, they will assess there are other different subjects such as commercial law, evidence, torts, property law that can also become a part of your examination process. The most important part that one needs to understand is the cost that would be involved. So per exam, you would mostly have to pay about 550 Canadian dollars per exam. It's like 475 CAD plus taxes. So that is the cost that you need to be aware of as to when you were going to apply for an examination. The examinations take place from January to December, and there are different slots available, different dates available. All you have to do is, once you've been assessed that you have to give, say, 6 exams, then you can choose which ones do you want to combine all. Do you want to give one exam in 1 month and another in the next month? So it's really a free, it's your decision making. A lot of people tell you that you need to combine 2 exams together or 1 exam separately or something. But once you know what they're going to ask you, it will be very easy. I mean, honestly, if I tell you, the very first exam I gave was Foundations of Canadian Law. And after giving the exam, I thought I'm not prepared. And I canceled all the rest of the exams that I had scheduled because I thought it's very tough. It's really difficult. Foundation was the first exam, yeah. But then when I got the past result, I understood that, okay, I'm not on a wrong, path. Then I applied for the rest of the exams, and it is very important to see two things within the NCA website. First is the syllabus. Second is a sample question paper, because a foundations paper would be very different from an administrative law paper. An administrative law paper generally is mostly is a 100-marker, 1-question paper, or 50-marker, 2 questions. But criminal law is going to be completely different. It is going to have subsets of questions. You need to have the criminal code with you in order to pass the paper. So for you to understand how to crack each examination, a mentor or somebody who's already given the exam becomes very essential. I think all of you would agree with me, that all the questions and all the subjects are different. So as soon as you get a little bit of guidance, you know exactly how to crack all the exams. Did you guys also face something similar?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
your
Yeah, I
mostly
like
this is
the
the
idea
Oh,
process.
that
yeah.
you said combining two, that it might make sense sometimes to combine two exams, like foundations. I thought that doing foundations and constitutional law around the same time was kind of helpful. Yeah,
Criminal law and the PR.
exactly. Criminal law and ethics, yeah, professional responsibility and things like that. So yeah, it makes sense to have a strategy. Like Anisha said, having someone who's done it to kind of talk you through the process can be very helpful, because you need to develop a strategy that works very well for you, based on the information you have.
Okay, so that's perfect. You're actually taking a question right out of my mouth, because one of the things I wanted to know is, did you all work with a mentor? And if you did, where did you find them? How did you make those connections? If you could speak a little bit about that. And I also have another question about the exams in terms of, so Duni, you mentioned you did self-study. Anisha, Jerome, I'm not sure if that's the path that you took, but I'd like to just touch a little bit on, like, where did you find your materials? How did you get the information that you knew that you needed to study for the exam? And then maybe we can go to the mentor question.
Okay, so let me start. When I decided I was going to take the exam, the first place I went to was the NCA website. Just like Anisha mentioned, the
Okay.
NCA website has two very, very important things, and she already mentioned those: the syllabus and the exam, like the practice exam, right? It's not the real thing, but it tells you, look at what you're going to expect. Now, the good thing about the syllabus is that they are not going to go outside the scope of what they've told you that they would cover. If they said, we're going to examine you on a particular car called Honda Civic, they are not going to ask you about a Mercedes-Benz. So stick to the syllabus, read all the cases. That's what I did. It might sound very big, but I found out that the cases, they were very helpful. They were like stories, of course. So I just downloaded the syllabus, and it was my starting point. And then I had some notes. There was a couple of notes that you could get. And but I don't want to talk about the notes per se, but it's super helpful because this has been recorded. So the syllabus is the most important thing. So you should get the textbooks. The textbooks are so important. Anisha wrote foundation as the first course. I don't know how she managed to do that. Foundation is very scary. So many people run away from writing foundations. But I would say, if you are not using the textbook, and don't get me wrong, I advise you, I strongly advise you to get the textbooks if you could afford them. But if you cannot, get the material, get the syllabus. The cases are there. The cases are super helpful. Every case in the syllabus is telling you a different story. So you could use the cases just by reading the cases alone. You are going to be able to come up with the way they write judgments here, Supreme Court and every other courts. It's so helpful. So when you read the cases, it's going to be super helpful for you. I think that's what I did. And for courses like foundation, I think it's important that you get the textbook. I'm being honest. Foundation is really tricky, and textbooks help, right? Because there are kind of questions that they ask. So
Great, thank you. Do either of you want to add any more to what Jerome said?
I think he's rightly pointed out about the case laws part. The moment you start giving exams, you realize that if you had studied a particular case law on that topic, you would have exactly understood how the decision has been made. They first would point out the facts of the case, and then they would come to their reasoning. They would refer to other judgments, and mostly NCA exams are also based on case laws. So they will give you a case law, and you have to mostly find answers to it, which are very practical. There is nothing which is academic. It's all very practical based. They give you a situation, for example, a clash between a provincial and a federal legislation, and then tell you how to, go about it and how to resolve the issue and what happens. For that, you need to really understand if similar situations have taken place, how have courts really interpreted it, what are the doctrines they have adopted, and how have they reached to a situation where they were able to resolve the problems. So once you understand the questions are not academic at all and they're all practical, you will be able to make sense of the material. So reading judgments really help you navigate through it. Textbooks, Jerome, hats off to you if you've gone through all of them. I mean, the very first thing I did was get all the textbooks, and then I could never get started because they are too much. But then I did rely upon a lot of online notes, but that was only as a foundation, not completely on the notes. Like, notes give you direction, but they will not help you pass. Notes will only tell you, the brief of what is there in the textbook. And from those notes, if there's an article that is mentioned and there's a brief of that article, you can probably go online and read the entire article to understand, what is it saying. Because I actually got a question on an article from in my exam. So you can't take those articles lightly. And also, when you go through certain judgments that are mentioned and you read through it, a lot of clarity is there when you are able to answer a question. So yes, absolutely, I absolutely agree with Jerome on the way of studying. But yes, notes is not the only thing. I mean, you'll go online and you'll find different notes, and everything will have something different to tell you. But the idea is to get a little bit of foundation right, get your foundation right, and then build upon it to be able to answer something.
Great. Duni, do you want to add in?
Yes, I just wanted to also echo that the notes and the syllabus worked immensely for me. I couldn't, like, I was juggling a lot at the time, so I couldn't go through the textbooks, but the notes and the syllabus and the case law really helped. Like, you see a question on the NCA exams, and if you did read the cases, it'll be like it's a case that you read, and you can just go through it that way. So I used the notes, and then I made my own notes. I made sure that I used the syllabus to update the notes and make sure that I was cross-checking things, right? If you're using notes, you don't want to rely 100%, like Anisha said. So I double-checked things for myself, and that also helped with like studying, right? Because I was checking things and making sure that the notes were up to date, and case law was still relevant and everything. So notes, case law, and the syllabus was my go-to, and it worked out well.
Okay, and we do have one question that I think is relevant to what we've just said. Now, did all of you self-study, or did any of you take a course to help you study? No, I'm saying all self-study. Okay, okay, perfect. So now to the mentor question. Did you all work with a mentor? If you did, where did you find a mentor? I always want to know how to find a mentor.
So I did work with a mentor, but it wasn't for the NTA exams. I worked with a mentor for networking purposes, for finding an articling position. But for the NCA exams, I didn't work with any mentor.
Okay, but in terms of this mentor, Jerome, I mean, we're getting questions about articling positions, and networking is going to be a key component to being successful, I think, in law. How did you find this mentor?
Okay, so in January last year, I just started attending to any event that I saw. So many people were publishing different events. But this particular event was a Black Canadian Lawyers Association. It was open to people who are lawyers and people who are yet to be called to the bar. But just like we have the Black Canadian Lawyers Association, there are other different organizations representing different nationalities that have similar associations. So that is my first starting point. That is my advice to people. You should try to connect. You know, we have Asian Lawyers Association, something like that, something similar. Now, I've also made myself available to Mosaic, try to find a mentor via Mosaic, but at some point, I think it fell through. I wasn't able to get one. I don't want to get into details, but I also registered with the Canadian Bar Association. It has an option for you as a student. You don't have to be a lawyer to register for to be a member of the Canadian Bar Association. There's an option for you to choose that you're going to say, oh, I'm a student, I'm completing my NCA. Now, they send you emails every day. In fact, they send you emails every second. There are so many information there. It seems like you guys are in a relationship because when you wake up every morning, you see so many emails from Canadian Bar Association. So many informations are there, very, very useful. They're going to tell you, oh, this event is happening here, this event is happening there. Last year, I went to an event organized by Office of the Privacy Commissioner. At that event, I met two lawyers who were helpful. They shared certain information that could help for articling positions. So these are some of the events I attended. These are some of the places where I met people. But the place where I met my mentor was at the Black Canadian Lawyers Association. So when I went to the event, I registered and I got paired with him. And he's been the kindest person ever. He's been super helpful. He's open to helping out, and he's never too busy or too occupied to answer any questions. So yeah, I hope that explains it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great. Dooney, I could see you were laughing quite hard. Do you get lots of emails from the Canadian Bar Association as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's very true. It's a very great place to really network and find information and people. In general, people are willing to help. I mean, of course, you have to be respectful of people's time when you're asking for help and mentorship, but people are willing to help, and the CBA is a very good place, and they do send you emails, like you wake up to their emails. So it's it's a good opportunity to get information. Yes. I didn't have a mentor when I was doing my NCA. So I kind of just went through all of that by myself. But I have over the years, like as I've been working and I've been in the community, I've built a lot of relationships that have been super helpful over the years. But that was mostly through work, and not any particular organization.
Okay, and so through your kind of legal assistant position in the downtown east side, is that where you basically made your connections?
Yes, that kind of, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
yes.
And Anisha, how about you? Have you had a mentor through this process?
So just because I'm on this panel discussion, that's not the reason why I'm saying it. But once I completed my NCA is when I got connected with ISS of BC, and I was awaiting my results for it. And I think Manili was instrumental in supporting me. And if the only person or the only mentorship I could say I got was through ISS of BC,
Okay.
and I can't, really thank enough, because she has cheered for me when I've, shared with her that I completed my NCA examinations and I've got my certificate. I told her that, I got, confirmation for one exam, but other exam I have, missed the deadline. And she was like, you should fight for it. You're a lawyer. And she was like, from there to, getting us, I think that's the whole part of career path in ISS of BC, that you assist in from resume to interviews to how to connect with people. I think that kind of mentorship, it's not necessary that you get a legal mentorship or, per se something in the field of law. But when you know that, somebody's there who's going to assist you when you've reached in British Columbia, somebody is going to tell you that, this is how your resume should be. This is how you should, go out and talk to people. This is how you should connect. And, moreover, there are referral programs that once you are ready and you want to get into the job market, they would also connect you to people. I think you can't expect any more of a mentorship than that. And I think I've been lucky, and thank you for that I have got mentorship from you, Liz, who finds an opportunity and sends out an email and asks anybody who's interested. So I think the whole team, whether it's Renee helping me with my resume or it's everybody a part of the team, the entire ISS of BC has helped in the mentorship. And I'm really not saying it because I'm in the panel, but I genuinely felt the mentorship here.
I was going to say thank you for the plug. I should have let you started the meeting off. You do better at selling the program than I do. But you know, I do joke that I would say that part of my job is, you know, part kind of job coach, trying to help people find work, but then the other side is the cheerleading side, because again, this process is really long. You know, it's my understanding it takes years to be a lawyer again. And from the lawyers that I've had the privilege of working with, all of you are very dedicated to your career and you really identify as a lawyer. And to have that taken away from you because you've chosen to come to a different country, I think is unfair, but it's also really hard on all of you. So this is why having the three of you here this evening to be able to share your experiences and show that, you know, there is an end in sight. It does take a lot of work to get there. You know, this is great for everybody on the call. So I guess we'll do a quick thank you here again. But now for a couple more questions. So the articling position.
I just wanted to say that I should have started with ISS of BC. Thank you, Anisha, for saying that. Because Liz was, oh my God. If I say was, I think it's a continuous process. Liz has been very supportive, and supportive, I'm using supportive for lack of better, you know, word. I think ISS of BC is the first place that you should start with. You know, they are going to support you so much that at some point you are going to think, oh my God, this is my home country. So please get plugged in, and thank you for the work you do. Everyone, not just you. Yeah,
You guys are
everyone.
great.
So,
Don't make me teary-eyed only 30 minutes into the call, okay? Now, so thank you very much. I'm not very good at taking compliments. I will openly admit that. So we do have some questions about articling positions. So Anisha, I know that this one isn't quite yet ready for you, but maybe you're going to learn a bit of information here. I learned from Jerome that finding an articling position is extremely difficult. It is highly competitive, and you're not only competing against other internationally trained lawyers, you're competing against Canadian trained lawyers as well. So Duni and Jerome, could you speak a little bit about how you were able to successfully find your articling positions and a little bit about the process that you went through? I don't know who wants to go first.
Duni should go
Jerome,
first.
you can go first. Okay, I'll go. So you're very right. I think that was the most challenging part of this journey is finding articles and getting lots of rejections and even radio silence. Like, no, you don't just hear back, right? First, I'll say that it's very important to take care of yourself mentally. You can't afford to take these rejections to heart. You've gotten your law degree. Some of you have even practiced law in your home country before coming here. So you have a lot to offer. So, I mean, stay strong and keep pushing. Like, there's definitely an end in sight. For me, like I said, the way that I did was I was open to different ways, right? And different areas of law. I wasn't like really I wasn't hung up on practicing one type of law, right? I was very open. So I worked as a legal advocate, which was a job that I just applied for it and I got it, which was very, very helpful because it exposed me to other areas of law like poverty law and just various other areas that are, you know, under access to justice. So the way I found my articling position was very, very interesting. While working as a legal advocate, where I was just providing advocacy services to people, I came in contact with a lawyer who, you know, we had a mutual client. So I was supposed to do something for the client, and it was successful. I helped the client on the file, and then I later reached out to the lawyer saying, hey, I actually have my NCA qualifications. I'm looking for an articling position. She was really warm. It was wonderful, but it didn't happen immediately, right? I had to wait like almost 2 years after before I reached out again and said, I'm still looking, and you know, And then she was able to get me a position at the clinic. However, another way of being open is, knowing about shared articles. So you don't have to do your articling in one firm. You can do 6 months here and 6 months at another firm, which is what I did. And that was the only way that I would have been able to complete my articling year, right? So I did 6 months at the immigration clinic, and then I did 6 months with Access Pro Bono's Everyone Legal Clinic. It was very helpful that I was open to shared articles, like I said. So again, just the kind of jobs that I did before articling, I think really positioned me to be able to get an articling position. Before I worked as a legal advocate, I worked with an immigration consultant as a case manager. So that was also some experience and that I was able to carry forward to the work that I did in the future. So yeah, that was my strategy, is just getting jobs in the legal field, as close to the legal field as possible, and then getting in when I got the chance.
And can I ask, like, if you had to tell me, how many articling positions do you think you applied for in those 2 years?
It will definitely be more than 100. Like
More than 100, okay.
I even I took my application physically to an office at some point, and I didn't hear back. Like, it was just silence.
Okay. Yes, well, this was something Jerome and I went through together. So Jerome, how did you get your articling position?
Okay, so wouldn't necessarily say that I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I applied to as much places as Junior applied to, because my focus initially was on just getting a job that would be helpful for me. So, but there was this opportunity that came out, and this opportunity came out as a result of networking. That was how I got to know rather about the articling position, right? So, like I said, I met someone last year, and from time to time we just have lunch, or just catch up from time to time. I don't talk about the fact that I'm looking for a job. They already know. So just we have this lunch and we just talk about random things. And they've been able to link me up with so many other lawyers. Some of the lawyers that I've had lunch with. So sometimes this year, they sent me an email and they said, "Oh, are you still looking for an articling position?" I said, "Yeah." Or rather, I had lunch with them, and we're like, "Are you still looking for an articling position?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm not like actively looking for. Well, yeah, I would appreciate something." And he sent me a link. He said, "Yeah, okay, send your application. Your application will be considered just like everyone else." So it wasn't like, "Okay, we're gonna give you that, that preference." So that was how I knew about this position to start with. It's from networking. It wasn't something I saw on LinkedIn or saw somewhere else. And most of the application that I've sent out to other places was from other people sending me, "Oh, you should apply here," right? But at the same time, one thing about Canada is that people are going to tell you, "We're not going to do anything." I don't know whether that's the truth. I don't know whether they actually do something on your behalf, but they would tell you, "We're not going to really do anything on your behalf, but we might put in word for you." I don't know the extent of how much work they get to put in, but that was how I got the opportunity, and I applied. I had an interview. I was successful with the interview, and yes, I will be resuming in October. So networking for me.
Okay. My favorite word, networking, because it is so important to do. I know it can be really hard, especially if you're a bit shy, but it seems to me across the board, it doesn't matter what occupation you're trying to get hired in. Networking is key to finding insights, to finding mentors, to finding articling positions in your guys' case. I've got a question from the chat. So is it possible to do articling in-house, or does it always start with a law firm? Does anybody have the answer to that one?
I think it's very much possible to do articling in-house. I know someone who's doing that. Maybe not in BC right now. The person is in Ontario, and the person is having an articling position in-house in a company. So it's about making sure that the legal counsel of the organization is willing to, because you must have an articling partner, an articling principal. Duni would perhaps speak on that, but I think if you have someone who is willing to be your principal in an organization, I think that's a possibility.
Yes, I believe that's the requirement. You can do it in-house, to my understanding, as long as the principal meets the qualifications. I think it's 4 to 7 years post call. I'm not sure how many years, but the principal has to be has to have a certain number of years of experience and then take you on as a student. That's the requirement.
Okay, fantastic. Now I want to kind of switch up a little bit here. Anisha, when we started the call, you talked about the many problems that you faced. I have a feeling that all three of you have faced many problems, many roadblocks along the way. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what some of these challenges were and how you were able to overcome them. If it meant time, if it meant, you know, being a little bit creative in terms of how you were able to kind of overcome them. But I'd love to hear from each one of you what some of your major challenges were and how you were able to deal with them. Again, you guys get to decide who goes first. Don't all jump in at once. Anisha, you get to go.
Anisha, your name starts with an A, so you start.
Yes, and you didn't have to answer the last one, so you go ahead.
But I mean, if you want, I can add on to the last one. Maybe I'll come back to it
Oh,
on
sure.
exemption on articling. Maybe.
Oh,
we
well,
can
why
make,
don't you actually, why
discuss.
don't you talk about that and then we can talk about the problems because
Yeah,
you were exempt. So
yeah,
I'd love to hear about this.
Yes, so there are various parts of articleship and there is exemption also. So it really depends on person to person and the choices they are making. There are various bar associations. There's Law Society of Ontario, there's Law Society of British Columbia, Alberta, all of them. So once you've completed your NCA, you don't necessarily have to choose British Columbia or Toronto or Alberta. It's completely your choice. You see what is the induction that each law society have. Some only have articleship, they have no exams. Some have exams and complete waiver of articleship. Some has a combination. So British Columbia has a combination of articleship and I think there's exam as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Law Society of Ontario has barrister exam, solicitor exam, and 1 year of articleship. But Law Society of Ontario does a complete waiver if you have previous 2 years of experience in your country, similar to what is expected out of somebody who would be a lawyer in Toronto, Ontario. So if you have worked in ethics, in criminal law, in civil law, and business law, and all of those, there are, you know, certain criteria that are mentioned. And if you have worked on it and you can show that you worked on it, they will give you a complete waiver, because I have received a complete waiver. And then it is going to be upon each individual to choose which bar they want to be associated to. If they feel that Law Society of Ontario is not something that they want to go ahead with, they can always, most of the bar have option of switching. So you can transfer your license from Ontario to British Columbia, from British Columbia to Ontario, depending upon their criteria. So you can take those decisions, because at times we also suffer from, you know, not being able to get articleship on time, or, you know, we are losing on a lot of time. One of the options are also there, that you choose some other bar and then transfer your license to British Columbia or British Columbia to Toronto, however you feel like. So that's just something I wanted to add upon, that just because you want to practice in British Columbia doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, this is the only route. There are other ways also. So just make your choices, just wait accordingly and see. But it is going to be a little expensive, because transferring, once you've already, you know, paid for all your examinations of NCA, and then you've already, you know, registered yourself to a particular bar and made all the payments for it. And then when you're transferring it, then there is going to be a cost for transferring, and then, you know, reaccreditation or however of, you know, being associated with a particular bar again. So that cost might be involved, but then you have to evaluate, you know, your time and your cost and how you want to, what would you prioritize. So yeah, I just wanted to add that on articleship. So even if you want to work in British Columbia, there are also other ways of, you know, getting articleship waiver and all of that.
Now, I have a question for you. I'm thinking about engineers right now. Like I know, for instance, becoming an engineer in British Columbia, it's the hardest province across Canada to get certified in. Is that the same when it comes to law, or is each province very standardized in what their expectations are? Or do you know?
Each province have a very different because I've heard that Alberta doesn't have any examination. So
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I have experience of
You're
Toronto
correct.
and British Columbia. Yeah. So every bar has a different assessment for their candidates whom they want to induct. So you need to see it's not if Alberta doesn't have an examination, there is a possibility if you're moving to Law Society of Ontario, they might ask you to give those exams.
Okay.
So, so they will also assess whether you've got the complete waiver of your articleship and whether you've cleared both your exams and you're transferring, or you've never given an exam and then you're transferring, and they'll judge accordingly. And accordingly, they'll assess whether or not the license can be transferred or you need to fulfill certain criteria to transfer. What I know for sure is that if you've got a complete waiver in Law Society of Ontario and cleared your barrister and solicitor, there is no other requirement for transfer. You can just directly get your license transferred, and there is no examination or articleship requirement in British Columbia, because a friend of mine got their license transferred recently, and there was no examination again, or no articleship requirement. So that was waived. So they will also have to see from where you're transferring your license. So that is also one of the options that, those who are here can explore.
Okay, that's great. Jerome or Dooney, do you want to add anything into that?
No, for me, I know that it's common. I know a lot of people who have done what Anisha is
Doing the moving.
describing. It's very common, yes. But it's an individual choice, right? You have to weigh your options and see what's best for you. For me, I had just 1 year of experience in Nigeria before I came here. And I was also just personally keen on doing articles because I wanted to learn the legal culture and everything other thing that comes with it. That was just my personal choice. But it's certainly possible. I know a lot of people that have done what Anisha is describing. It's possible, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so now the challenges, the roadblocks.
Challenges.
Yeah,
Right.
who wants to start? So Anisha, you get to go first. I forgot. Yes.
Okay.
So please tell us, what were some of your problems that you faced?
See, most of us are working individuals. So to be able to start studying again while either you are working or if you've moved completely, and the biggest challenge is how do you start studying when there is so much of syllabus and you have no guidance whatsoever. The only thing that has worked for me, or I've ever told everyone who started, is that just take it one page at a day. I mean, you're not going to finish a chapter on the very first day you're starting to study. If you've finished one page and you move on to the second page the next day, it's okay. It's all about getting into a routine, sitting down and trying to make notes, or sitting down and understanding, rereading, because once you start from scratch, you will read the first page and it'll happen to a lot of people who think, what am I doing? Where am I starting from? It is going to be so much. But in 10-15 days, you'll see that you're halfway through the syllabus. The biggest challenge is always to, how to begin. Once you've started, the process is very smooth, and I've seen people only marking pages and all of that, but I would recommend you make notes. Whatever you've studied, it's an open book examination. It's an online examination. You can all the NCAs, all the NCA examination, you can sit at home and give the exam. So you have the comfort of your home. You can choose your day of and time of your choice. You have everything. The only thing that is not allowed is electronic notes. But if you have written notes, as many notes as you want. So try to reduce it down to how do you think a question can come. For example, if a question on criminal law is coming, a lot of chapters would be involved. So as you understand how to crack an examination, you will realize that, okay, so this is the offense, these are the defenses available, this is the punishment, this is how, it is going to work. You have a flow of it, you'll be able to answer it much better as compared to having an entire bundle and then flipping through the 3 hours and struggling. So the very first thing I would say is just start, even if it is 1 page at a day. The second thing I would say is try to reach out to the ones who've actually given the exam, even if you don't know them. They can reach out to all of us. Jerome has gone through it. Danny has gone through it. I'm there. We all have, gone through the process. If you see somebody, even on LinkedIn, if you put NCA, a lot of people would have in their, bio would have written cleared NCA certified. Just send them a message. I mean, everybody responds. I mean, I have gotten networking from taxis. I've sat and I've spoken to somebody and they said, "Oh, you're a qualifying lawyer. My niece is a lawyer. Wait, let me share your number." And so people help. People are very helpful, and if you won't ask, for help, you won't get it. I mean, there's no harm in asking for help. It is only going to help you navigate through it easier. Something that is going to take you, say, 1 year, getting the right guidance or mentorship would probably help you reduce it down to 6 months. And honestly, it will. So one of the most important part is to start, and second is to make notes. I think specifically for those who are actually working professionals.
Okay, fantastic. If we're going in alphabetical order, then Duni, you're next.
Yes, thank you, Anisha. Very helpful to, remind for me also. I mean, I think you have to know what your study technique is. But taking notes was certainly very helpful for me, taking my own notes, right? One thing that I found really challenging is the fact that the exams were open book. I know it's weird. We don't have open book exams in Nigeria. So, initially when I first registered, I'm like, it's open book. It's open book. But then when the reality of the exam started to dawn on me, I'm like, you better prepare for this like it's closed book, because you get into trouble if you say it's open book. You can just skim through things and you'll never find anything you're looking for. Never, right? So although people have different ways of getting around that, like you can create indices. That's one popular way of passing these exams, is if you create indices and you can easily locate what topic and locate, but that still takes time and it takes a lot of familiarity material. So for me, the biggest challenge was dealing with the fact that it was open book. But when I got over that, I just sat down and I started, just like Anisha said, I read and then I took my own notes. When I was taking my own notes, and that's just my study technique, is taking my own notes actually just helps me remember. I didn't even have to look at the notes in the exam at the end of the day, but because I wrote things down, I remembered writing them down. It just improves my understanding. That's just, so knowing your study technique, taking notes is definitely a popular one, and just creating a routine and rereading things. The more familiar you are with the material, the better you're going to do on the exam. That's just that's the way, at least that's the way it's worked for me, right? I don't have to flip through things, and even if I had to check something, I knew many times, I knew exactly where it was because I was very familiar with the material. Over to you, Jerome.
So I like to start by saying that if you have a law degree, if you're licensed to practice law in any jurisdiction, you'll be fine. So I don't want to scare you. I don't think we're trying to scare you, but one of the challenges I had was at the time when I started writing my exam, one of the challenges I had was financial because I had this job that was barely paying my bills and I was gotten deep into my savings. So ISS of BC came through. In fact, they were sending me checks like, oh my God, so they came through. Yeah, they were sending me money. So they came through. So that was one of the challenges I had was, oh, how am I going to pay for this exam? And when I found the organization, it was super helpful. The first time I paid myself and they had to reimburse me. When I paid, I was, oh my God, are they going to reimburse me? eventually they did. So they are good for it. The second challenge I had was self-study. Some people are good with self-study, some others are not. So you might find it challenging to be able to study on your own, especially if you currently work or if you have other responsibilities, like if you have kids or other things. So I would come back home by 6 and I have to be on this desk by 7, and I will read from 7 to, I don't read late at night. I don't know how to read late at night. So I have to read from 7 to 11 every day for almost 7 months. So I found it very challenging. It was super, super tough for me. So being able to stay grounded, it was very challenging. So I would say one thing that helped, when I wrote the first 2 exams, I didn't have a community. Eventually, I found a community. So please find a community. There's a Facebook group for NCA students. Just type NCA in Facebook, you're going to find a community. Some of the people here are going to be writing the exam. So you could message each other and say, okay, let's be able to work together. Let's remind each other to take the exam. Because when I found the community, it became very easy. I looked forward to going to my table to open my laptop. Initially, it was difficult for me being able to motivate myself to sit down to read for the exam. So it was something I found really challenging. So another thing that I found challenging, not necessarily challenging, but I think some people might find it challenging, is you might write this exam and not pass, not because you don't know the answer, it's the structure. So I think it's important that you learn the structure. People who practice in common law jurisdiction, people who know how to use what's that structure called? I'll remember it. But it's important that you know the structure. If you don't use that.
IRAC.
Yeah, IRAC. So people who've written this exam and they say, oh, I don't know how I failed. I don't necessarily think you failed. I think if you don't put it the way they want you to put it, it can be a challenge. So I'm putting it out there. It's one of the challenges that people have told me that they've encountered. And I'm glad that I had people who told me initially, say, oh, you have to do this. You make sure you do this. They don't want you to reproduce what you have in your notes. They want you to apply it to the situation at hand. So this is an open book exam. And just like Doni said, I found open book very confusing. You know, you have the answers right there, but then you're going to find out that 3 hours is like 3 minutes. So it can be challenging. Open book can be challenging for some people, and for some other people, it could be like a walk in the park. So those are some of the challenges I had: finances, studying alone, having a dedication, learning the exam structure, and yeah.
Okay. Oh, so a couple of great points made here. Now about failing. How many, do they give you a certain amount of times that you can write the exam, or can you just keep writing it until you pass?
3, I think you
get
can
3
give 3
attempts?
attempts. Yeah.
Okay, and is it
attempts.
just,
Yes.
is it
then
pass
you
or
have
fail?
Yeah, it's just pass or fail.
Pass or
Yes.
fail.
Okay, fantastic. And
You
a
need
couple of questions.
50%.
Oh,
Yeah.
you need 50%. Okay, perfect. A couple of questions from the chat. Do you need to be a permanent resident to take these exams?
No.
Anisha's saying no. Okay,
Not
and
for NCS. To be registered for bar, you might need to, for solicitor and barrister exams, you might need to be a permanent resident, but not for NCA.
okay, great. And English level? Do you have to have your English level tested before you take the exam? I don't know if that's relevant for any of you on the call.
No.
I'm getting head shakes. Okay,
No.
okay, perfect. We
No.
just cleared up some questions, so thank you for that. Now I want to ask you guys, knowing what you know now through all of this, what do you wish that you knew at the beginning to help you kind of start? Because again, you guys are all kind of right at the end stages of this whole journey that has obviously taken you quite some time. What was the one thing or a couple of things that you wish you knew right at the beginning?
Jerome, let's start with the reverse alphabet this time.
For me, I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that you have to, I don't know if it is a misconception for everyone, but for me, at the time, I had the idea that I have to finish my NTA before I start searching for articling positions. And that is not correct. And something I should have done earlier was just put myself out there. You really can't tell. I mean, you might get an opportunity. Some people get an opportunity before they even start writing the exam. And because when you get an articling position, you don't start immediately. You have a number of months before it starts. So you have those periods to complete exam. So sometimes I think it was something I would have done differently. This is something I would have done differently, right? I would have started this way. I would have started searching, even if I was going to get no, but I would still prefer to put myself out there. And maybe some of the feedbacks I get would have been super helpful. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Dunia, unfortunately, you get stuck in the middle of this reverse or alphabet. You're always in the middle.
I know. There was, to be honest, for me, I don't think there's anything in particular that I wish I had known. Like I did my research and I knew, like, particularly to me, I wish I kind of trusted the process more, because like I mentioned earlier, when you're trying to do something and it seems like it's not working out, like frustrations and just, taking all these rejections personally. I wish now in hindsight, it wasn't necessary, like just move on and do. I mean, it didn't really affect me, like my reality, but I know inside I was really sad about, why can't I land an articling position? What's going on and all of that. So I wish I just, really didn't give myself all that headache and just trusted the process and enjoyed the journey, because it's a journey. It's a journey, really. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Anisha?
I think a couple of points here. To begin with, I think you need to speak with people. It's very important because as the exams are coming nearer, you Google, you read all the reviews that are available as to how people pass the exam. You'll go to YouTube, you'll try to find, what are the tricks of how people have cleared the exam. A lot of things you try to do, and a lot of things you learn also, because from a YouTube video of someone, I heard her saying that, you need to have the criminal code with you if you are giving the criminal law exam. And that was the only reason I could pass the exam, because, if you don't have the criminal code, you will not pass through. So it is very important to understand from people who've actually given the exam. So first of all, you need to know that you need to reach out to people. It's great if you have a connect. If you don't, try and talk to your friends. Someone would have given the exam. Second is that there are no past year question papers available online. So you are clueless as to how the question paper is going to be, what kind of questions are going to come. So that also helps you when you're talking to somebody as to how to, how to prepare for each subject. And I think the whole panel discussion and everything looks very scary as to what has happened in over one and a half hour of this. But to be honest, it is not so difficult. It is very easy if you know how to crack it. If you enjoy law, or if you're somebody who enjoys, being a lawyer, the whole process is nothing. Being a lawyer is all about having the common sense, and we're all coming from commonwealth, countries with common law knowledge, and it's not civil law, which is a little different. So having the common law knowledge background, your legal acumen, your ability to solve a problem, you can trust on all of that. If you can trust on all of your instincts like that, you will be able to clear the paper. It's just like those puzzles which you need to put together for an answer. It's a wonderful process. If it really depends on how you put it. It's a mindset, but it's a beautiful process. You will enjoy the journey. I mean, it's not like you need to learn everything and just blur it out in an examination. It's about solving a problem. So it's not so tough. I mean, it looks scary. I mean, I'm looking back and thinking of the entire 1 hour discussion we had, and it can scare a lot of people. But honestly, it is not a scary journey. It's not at all a scary journey. You just need to know how to go through it. That's it.
Okay, that's excellent. So this kind of leads into my next question about how did you stay motivated? Because so Duni, you said you got here in 2019. Jerome, I think you got here around the same, right? Or 2021-ish?
No, 2022.
2022. Anisha, when did you come?
Last year.
Okay,
23.
so
Yeah.
we're talking somewhere between 4 years to 1 year. How are you guys staying motivated through all of this? Like Jerome, for instance, I know you were working a job where you were not using your skills whatsoever. And that can be really hard. Duni, you just spoke about the constant rejections, trying not to take it personally, but it's hard. It's like worse than being on a dating app and getting rejected all the time. All of those rejections coming in from employers. What did you guys do to stay motivated? I'd love to hear hear a little bit about that.
I think for me, I know what, like, I'm very goal oriented. I knew, like, if like I had a goal post, right? And despite the rejection and the difficulties, like I said, look, it's not if it's gonna happen, it's when it's gonna happen, right? So I was basically just giving myself all these pep talks. And yeah, when I was doing the NCA exams and my master's, and speaking about working a job that, you weren't using your skills at all, I was working as a door-to-door fundraiser. So I was knocking on doors, and that, like, I enjoyed it in the summer, but then when the weather was bad, and it wasn't an easy job. But I feel like those kind of challenging times made me, just know that, look, where you're going is you have a destination, right? Just keep working towards where you're going, and having a good support system as well. So the community, I had friends, I have a partner and family who just kept on encouraging me, and then seeing people who had done it, I think that was really just the biggest thing. Seeing people who had done it told me that, look, it can be done, right? It's not impossible. It might be challenging, but it's not impossible. And I just had to search inward and know myself, like, how do I like to operate with the exams. For me, I like gathering information and kind of sorting through it to see how it works for me. When I say gathering information from people, because many times people's experiences, like, you can't allow someone's experience to scare you or give you false hope that it's a walk in the park, right? You just have to tailor it to your own self and make sure that you chart out a course that will work for you. For instance, like Anisha was saying, the criminal code for the NCA exam, like, if you didn't have it, I forgot the criminal code for the NCA exam and I passed. I thought I was going to fail based on everybody's information, but I passed. So, finding out what really works for you and staying true to yourself and committed to your goals, that was what worked for me anyway.
Amazing, thank you. Anisha, Jerome, do you guys want to chip in here?
Yeah. Okay. For me, the biggest motivation for me was, there were two things. Number one was, I've lived this life before. I've been a lawyer. Like, it's not past tense, I'm still a lawyer. So I've been here and I know what it was like. And I was eager to get back to the system because I felt that this is where I'm going to contribute more to the society. And I had this job that I really hated. So every morning when I woke up, I wrote something and I put it on my door. It was like, you cannot be doing this. So if I was going to step out from my house, I would see that note. The note is still there. I just removed it from my door and put it somewhere else. I mean, I have to take a break sometimes. So it was one of my biggest motivation, because I kept on doing this, and people would ask me, oh, what were you doing in Nigeria? I would tell them, and they were like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, that's the same question I'm asking myself. So every day they ask me those questions, they were motivating me. I knew I didn't have to give up. I knew I have to do everything to get back to where it was. And secondly, I have a friend, I have a couple of friends who have gone through this process. And seeing how they got to the finish line, it was also something that motivated me. I'm like, okay, how is this person able to do this? If this person is able to do this, then it's possible that I might be able to do it too. So I have a friend in British Columbia here who's practicing law currently. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how you did this, but you are motivating me. Because of you, I'm going to keep trying to complete this journey. So yeah.
Perfect. I'll never forget that. Jerome and I were in a meeting and I couldn't see that he had headphones in and he was at work. And I said to him, let's get you out of this crappy job. You are too smart for this job. And then someone handed him a piece of paper and I could see the hand in the screen. And I thought, have they just heard me say that? Are you going to lose this crappy job? But fortunately, he had his headphones in. But we were able to get him out of it quite quickly after that. Anisha, how did you stay motivated?
No, I think I absolutely agree with both of them that the support system is very important. And I think I was very lucky to have a friend circle, colleagues everybody around me who chipped in, who supported, on a bad day, on a day when you're not motivated, you reach out to your friends and they're always there for you. On days when you're really extremely, busy with studying, your colleagues take over and, lend a hand and, they assist with the work. And I think if you have the right kind of support system, you can navigate through it. I absolutely agree with both of them on this.
Okay, I want to leave enough time for more questions if the participants have it. But one last question. Now that you're all at the end of the tunnel, the light is right there in front of your faces. What are you planning to do? Where do you want to go once now, Duni, you've called to the bar. Are you going to get out of your legal assistant position? What are your plans? Anisha, you finished your exam. What are your plans? Jerome, you got 1 more year left, do that articling position. Where do you want to go?
Okay. For me, just focused on completing the articling. I want to be like Juni. I want to be called to the bar. So I think when I get to the stage, the next stage would be trying to. Canada is a place where people want to specialize in an area. I'm coming from a jurisdiction where most people are generalists. You have a lawyer who does so many things, and I think right now I'm also looking at settling somewhere. And I've identified the place. So for me, I'm just going to focus on the articling. Once I conclude, I'll be looking towards finding an area, finding a niche for myself and being able to be a special person, just getting that specialty in that area. I think for me, that's the focus right now.
Okay, perfect. Anisha, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jerome. I mean, just get the licensing done and then, one step at a time. Let's just see how things go because, just like Dani, right? She applied for at 100 places and then, got through. You never know where you're going to end up, eventually. So the idea is just to keep trying and just see where you land. That's all. Like just, yeah, one step at a time.
And Duni, what are your plans?
So my plan is to do solo practice.
Okay.
Yes, so I intend to practice immigration law, immigration and refugee law, and family law, and residential tenancy matters, and some contracts drafting and review. So that's just gathering like where I've had experience. Yeah, so where I've had experience and there's still a lot to learn. I think one thing I've learned after articling and even passing the qualification exams and going through PLTC is that you never stop learning. So I'm eager, despite the fact that I want to do solo practice, I'm searching for ways that I can continue to build my knowledge and mentorship, relationships and experiences and just keep learning, right? But I do have my eyes on those areas to practice in.
Well, and 2 of those, I mean, immigration, refugee, and residence tenancy, holy smokes, you'll have your hands filled for sure, especially in Vancouver. I mean, residency.
In Vancouver.
I will come to you.
Yeah, residential
tenancy. In my building.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did a lot of that in my work as an advocate. So I was
sure.
I helped tenants a lot. So yeah, and I know it's a huge issue. There's a housing crisis here, and tenants
absolutely.
don't have enough representation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
so,
that's excellent. Fantastic. Now, for everybody that's on the call, this is your time. We've got about 10 minutes left. I think that I got all of the questions in the chat. But if you want to put your questions into the chat, I will read them out and we can see if our guests can answer them. We're getting a lot of thank yous. We're getting a lot of, you guys are real life motivators, which is the whole reason why we wanted to have this call this evening, to show people that you can do it. You can finally start working again as a lawyer.
Okay, there's this question. Hello, everyone. I want to raise a question about the current job market. How can I find a first job in the legal field while going through the NCA process? So I just wanted to say that there are a number of jobs that you could apply for if you have a law background. I'm currently working as a privacy officer, and like I said, I came from a place where we had to do everything. As an in-house counsel, I had to do everything. I have knowledge in so many places. So when I came to Canada, all I did was try to narrow down a particular sector and say, okay, can I use my knowledge base here? Right. So I wrote something down. you could apply, if you have the experience, you could apply for privacy roles, analyst, privacy officer, privacy analyst. You could apply as a risk associate, risk manager. You could apply as a regulatory compliance manager. So many organizations out there are looking for someone who has that law background, who has the ability to look at contracts and analyze them. So you could apply as contract manager, as a contract specialist. Depends on what your knowledge base is. So you keep working with Liz and everybody at ISS of BC, and they would guide you. I think policy analysts too. So
Yeah, I
these
was
are some
gonna
of the
say
places
policy.
I know that people have done something in. You know, I know someone who's working as a legal analyst. They don't have they're not licensed to practice law in Canada, but they're working with a law firm doing some kind of analyzing certain things, providing some kind of services, not directly to clients though, but you could do anything apart from the very obvious of legal assistance. There are some other ones focused on organizations. So just work with Liz and everyone at ISS or BC, and they would help you. I can assure you, if they don't help you, nobody's going to help you.
I appreciate all the plugs, Jerome. Nidhi, I see you've got your hand up. I'm just going to read out your question if that's okay. So she has booked her Constitution exam for, is that right? Constitution exam for July, and then giving her PR and criminal in August. Any advice?
Constitutional law is very, I would just say constitutional law is very tricky, but it's doable. Just learn all the tests. There are so many tests in constitutional law. There are so many tests, Aboriginal, everything, every topic has a test. Please don't go into the exam hall without having those tests. I think there are like 10 of them. You could reach out to me and I will send you a snapshot. So PR, just with your medal code. Criminal law, just go in with your criminal code. Well, if you have the kind of luck that Dooney had, you'll be fine. But just
My
going,
biggest for the criminal law was the cases. Those
Yeah.
cases are gold. They're gold. Like if you read the cases,
yeah.
you
I mean, for criminal law,
think
you've
you'll
been
chill.
lucky. Then you've been lucky. I mean, I got a section in my exam. So if I did not have the code, I didn't know, what were they talking about. So they did not mention any,
I got the section as well.
You did?
Section
So
300
if you
and
didn't know the
something.
section,
I did, but
then
I
yeah.
didn't know, but I figured from the question, like I knew it was something about robbery or something, and well, I guess it's from
Oh, and you've been lucky. I mean, you've really
it's
been
better
lucky.
to have the code. It's better to have the code. Yeah.
Because for criminal law, if you're attempting criminal law, you need to see the section and you need to see the ingredients of it, and you need to apply all the ingredients in your answer, from mens res, actus reus, and if there are any defenses available in your exam, and what are the basics of that particular section. So the idea of having the code is to look into that section, see what are the ingredients, and put it in your facts and see if they're matching. And if they're not, then you say that, okay, so and so offense has not been made out. Or if it has been made out, then you say that, depending upon the question about punishments or what are the defenses available to a person. The way to attempt each exam is different. In Constitution, like Jerome said, there are a lot of tests. So what you need to see is, how do you apply them factually? What happens when are those facts applicable? When are those things applicable in a fact, and how do you apply them? So the tests have to be really, it's very important to probably go through case laws and all to see how they're applying those particular facts to those particular principles, or so Constitution has to be dealt differently. I think simplest is the professional responsibility. I mean, I don't know how you guys found it, but I think that was the most easiest exam, and like a breeze. That was like, that helped me that, okay, I'm passing in this one at least.
Yeah. Professional responsibility is usually pretty good, but it also, if I recall correctly, it kind of cuts across the other exams. I don't know if it's for the NCA or for the bar exams, but it cuts across.
And then the
yes,
bar,
the
yes.
constitutional law, I think a lot of people find the most challenging. I think constitutional law is usually very tricky, but yeah, those tests and everything, and for me, it really just helps me, like stories. It helps me to understand what's going on. Like what's going on. You can read a blob of text and you don't, but when you see it in case law, then it's like, okay, it comes
I think
alive,
only case
right?
laws
So
can
it's
help
helpful,
you
yeah.
on the, absolutely. On application, only case laws can help
On
you as to
application,
how,
yes.
how are they being applied, and when to apply
Yeah.
them. So the best way is to go through a case law with all the principles and
Yeah.
yeah.
And like Jerome and I said the other time about the ways of answering the questions, the IRAC. I don't know if the issues. So you spot the issues and you identify the issues and the rules. So what rules are applicable in this situation? Then you apply the rules to the scenario, and then you conclude. What's the conclusion based on your application? So that's first step IRAC. Yeah, first step way of answering those practical questions is usually very helpful, and it helps you keep it simple, keep it short and sweet, like not writing like too much analysis.
Fantastic. So much good information. There's one last quick question here. Switching from Alberta to BC, what are the requirements? Would this be just go on to the BC page to find out what those specific requirements are? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
go to LSBC's website. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Firstly, let me just say thank you to all three of you. I'm so happy that you were here. I'm so happy that you decided to do this. I think one of you raised the point about seeing people on the other side and how motivational that can be. And the three of you are that motivation this evening for all of the people on the call. So I know you're busy. I know you're tired. I know there's traffic. I know it's nice outside. So I just thank you for spending this hour and a half with us and sharing all of this great information. Duni, I feel very fortunate that you agreed to speak here. I could twist both Anisha and Jerome's arms because obviously they're linked to ISS of BC, but you just put your hand up through a cold connection. So I just want to raise that point too, that really speaks to the power of networking. I reached out to the Internationally Trained Lawyer Network through LinkedIn because I saw a post and they responded to me immediately. They put me in touch with somebody they were in Ontario. They put me in touch with somebody in BC who then put me in touch with Duni. So please don't hesitate to reach out to people. The worst thing they're going to do is not respond, but the best thing that they are going to do is respond. And there's lots of help out there, especially when you reach out within the internationally trained community, because everybody's been in your situation. And most oftentimes, people who have come through the process are more than willing to help because they understand how you were feeling, just as we've heard this evening. So thank you, everybody. I will send an email. It's not going to be tonight. I will send it tomorrow. It will have the recording of this call. I'm going to send the Internationally Trained Lawyer Manual that the Internationally Trained Lawyer Network has just put out because it's got lots of valuable information in there. Jerome and Anisha and Duni, if you're okay, I'll send your LinkedIn links as well so people will be able to connect with you. And I've got the links that Jerome shared in the chat about the study notes, that kind of thing. So all of that's going to be in there. I will also send information for people who are in BC about immigrant services that are available to you, because there are career paths. For instance, if you are in the Lower Mainland, but you live in Surrey or you live in Port Coquitlam or North Vancouver, there are other services available to you where you would be able to work with someone like with career paths, someone like myself, to help you on this journey. But remember, networking, and I will also send what the information they provided in terms of where to connect with people, where to network with lawyers, and where to potentially find a mentor. So thank you again. Thank you for all the plugs for ISS at BC. You guys are like poster children for the program. It's fantastic. And thank you again, everybody, for being here. I appreciate you spending your evening with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.